On The Disturbance, we take a quick look at week 1 of your National Football League season as Tom Brady and Drew Brees get together. Collectively, if they were just one person, they'd be 83 years old. Plus, the Dallas Cowboys go into SoFi Stadium, that $5 billion monstrosity, and play exactly the way I thought they would play. We've got Russell Wilson continuing to play like he's the most valuable player in the National Football League. Baker looks like a backup, and a whole lot more coming up on the big show today. All right, I'm Dave DeBaugh. You are listening to The Disturbance. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. If you're listening to us on any of the 100-plus podcast platforms that exist across North America, go ahead and subscribe to the show. Now, let's start with Overreaction Monday, shall we? So, Tom Brady, at the age of 43, is with a new team. He's with a brand new team, as you know. He's playing for a coach he's never played for before in Bruce Arians. He's got a bunch of wide receivers that he's barely had time to work with. And he went into New Orleans and lost the game. Now, that shouldn't surprise you, should it? Look, I wasn't surprised in any way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost. What surprised me, though, was actually how bad Tom Brady was, especially in the second half of that game. Now, look, I know he went 23 for 36 in this game for 239 yards, 2 TDs, and 2 picks. The issue is that as the game went on, it seemed as if his arm got weaker. Plus, if you're a Buccaneer fan, at some point during the game yesterday, were you sitting there wondering, I really wish we still had Jameis Winston. At least Jameis Winston can throw the ball more than 40 yards down the field. Look, some of those interceptions, those 2 interceptions that Tom Brady threw were really, really bad. Almost, if you will, horrific. Now, of course, when you go back and you look at the tape, you can see that one of the issues was the wide receiver ran the wrong pattern. I think even if he had ran the right pattern, it still would have been a pick. And of course, Tom Brady kept up the streak that he doesn't want to have to keep up with 3. That's right, 3 pick 6 games in a row is what Tom Brady has delivered. Now, I don't think it's time to call it in for Tom Brady. I don't think it's time to say that Tom Brady needs to retire. And I don't think it's time to make those jokes about Gronk and Tom Brady going to a movie theater and receiving a discounted pass because they're in retirement. Like, that stuff's going to come. I think we need to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady another 8 weeks. They will get better this coming weekend when the Carolina Panthers come to town. Speaking of the Carolina Panthers, now, how upset must Matt Rule be about his defense in Carolina? I mean, seriously, they got beat at home by the Las Vegas Raiders. So they will go down in history as the first team to lose to the Las Vegas Raiders. So there's that. But not only that, they found a way to basically do what the Minnesota Vikings did against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, which was not apply any pressure to Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers in that Viking game went down once. So back to this game. Derek Carr, 22 for 30, 239 yards, 1 TD, no fumbles, no interceptions. This from a guy that has been sacked 80 times in the last 2 seasons. Let me ask you this. Do you know how many times Derek Carr was sacked by the Carolina Panther defense on Sunday? And the answer to that is a goose egg. He got sacked precisely 0 times. That is why the Carolina Panthers lost that game. If you're not going to get any pressure against what I would describe as a weak offensive line, then you're going to run into trouble. Look, when Carolina shows up in Tampa Tom and the Buccaneers will have a couple more things figured out, and they'll figure out how to win that game. Carolina at the end of next weekend is going to be 0-2. All right, other big games that went on in the National Football League. Now, look, we're not going to cover every game. We're just going to cover 5 games. We've just covered 2 of them. The next game I want to cover is the Sunday night football game, which featured the Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Rams from that $5 billion monstrosity. Look, I don't know how they made the leap. Like all the other new stadiums that have been built in the National Football League, really over the last, like since Jerry World was built, have cost between $1 billion and $2 billion. But to make the leap from $2 billion to $5 billion is hard to believe. Now, SoFi Stadium looked great. I loved the Los Angeles Charger uniforms that they wore in their handed over victory against Cincinnati. I absolutely loved the Rams uniforms as well. I know some people don't like them as much as I do, but I think they were really cool. And the numbers and the materials that they use in the numbers, super, super cool stuff. Looking forward to other teams as they start to duplicate some of those things. That being said, this is a Los Angeles Ram team. Like I said earlier in the year, like I said just last week, is a team that could win this division. Now, look, I know that Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks are an unbelievable team. I mean, Jamal Adams. I mean, what a great pickup that was for the Seahawks. Plus, Russell Wilson had another huge day, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 320 plus yards through the air. So Seattle is going to be tough. I wasn't surprised by the Cardinals taking down the 49ers yesterday. It didn't surprise me. And if anything, I would think that the Cardinals were a little bit ahead of schedule. I've extensively covered the San Francisco 49ers deficiencies and how the team has actually gone in the opposite direction since the Super Bowl. A lot of people out there who live outside of the Bay Area did not realize this. A lot of the members of the media, the sports pundits, if you will, were not paying any attention to the moves that were made by the 49ers last year. I have the 49ers winning 9 games this year, and I feel like that might have been me just being friendly to my buddies in the Bay Area. That being said, this Los Angeles Rams team, while it's not the Kansas City Chiefs, it's not the Baltimore Ravens, it is a good football team. This Los Angeles Rams team has enough talent on its roster to challenge for a Super Bowl berth. So do the Dallas Cowboys. So I wasn't surprised by the outcome of this game. It could have easily gone the other way, and it wouldn't have surprised me. What we ended up with was 2 good teams that still have some holes, and the Rams just quite frankly played a little bit better. Now, I know pass interference calls, they even out over time, but it still doesn't mean that I don't think the call against Gallup in the fourth quarter was a horrifically bad one. A horrifically bad call by the refs. Jalen Ramsey did a fantastic job selling it. The Emmys are coming up this weekend. Jalen maybe will get a last minute invite for his acting prowess. That being said, the Cowboys got jobbed on that call, and it was a difference maker in this game. You have to admit it. These 2 teams played very well. It was an evenly matched game. Not surprising. There's no reason to hit the eject button if you're a Cowboy fan. And if you're a Rams fan, you're heading in the right direction. Okay. So elsewhere around the National Football League, two more quick games I want to cover. And one being Bill Belichick and his brilliance as a head coach. Now, over the years, I've had to say things about teams that I didn't want to say. Like, I've predicted the Cowboys are going to go to the Super Bowl and win it this year. For the first time in the history of my adult life, have I picked the Cowboys to run the table. Over the years, I've had to give the New England Patriots a lot of props, even though by no stretch of the imagination will I ever be a Patriot fan. But you have to give it to Bill Belichick, for at least through week one, for figuring out how to get the most out of Cam Newton. Now, wait a sec. He had 15 for 19 completions. He only threw for 155 yards, and he scored twice on two running plays and rushed for 75 yards. Like, Cam Newton played, quite frankly, a great game. But with 5.5 minutes to go in that game, the Patriots were only up by 3. I'm just saying, hold the horses on the Patriots, have figured it out, and they've officially moved on from Tom Brady, because they haven't. Like, all of the other pundits in the that follow the National Football League are saying, and they're saying it correctly, which is the New England Patriots do not have enough offensive weapons. It is clear to everybody. That doesn't mean that I'm betting against the Patriots until Bill Belichick finishes a season 7-9. They've won 11 division titles in the era of National Football League free agency. Tom Brady went over the cliff 3 years ago, at least as a great quarterback. That's not to say that he wasn't good enough to get them to the Super Bowl and win it, but he hasn't been great for a very long time. Bill Belichick has pulled things together in a way that no other organization has been able to pull things together. Remember, I am not a Patriot lover. I am just merely pointing out fact. The fact is that when the New England Patriots go to Seattle coming up on Sunday night, they are not going to be able to get away with 155 yards passing from Cam Newton. It's just not going to happen. Jamal Adams is going to sit there and he's going to clog the line of scrimmage. Cam Newton's not going to run for 75 yards against that Seattle Seahawks defense. It is not going to happen. Bill Belichick will have to use a different game plan than the one he used against the lonely Miami Dolphins. One last thing I want to say about this game, because I'm a big fan of Tua. I think if Tua had played in this game, the Dolphins would have won. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so moving on to, every week I try to pick at least one. We try to pick 5 games. That's what we're doing this year. We're picking 5 games and we're covering them. And every week I try to pick at least one sort of obscure game that maybe some of the other recap shows wouldn't cover in their top 5 games. And this week I'm going with Lamar Jackson at home against the Cleveland Browns. But I'm not covering this to praise Lamar Jackson. I'm not covering this game in any way to praise Harbaugh, the defense, the Ravens at all. They won the game 38-6. I'm covering this game to point out something I've been pointing out now for literally 12 months, which is even heading into the start of last season with the Cleveland Browns. I said that Baker Mayfield at best is a low-level, below the average quarterback in the National Football League. A quarterback that probably should be a backup. I'm not saying he can't have a Ryan Fitzpatrick style successful backup career. Maybe become one of the best journeymen in the history of the National Football League. But I don't think that Baker Mayfield has enough. In fact, Ryan Fitzpatrick has more talent. I don't think that Baker Mayfield on the surface has enough talent. I think Baker Mayfield has a great agent behind him. I think Baker Mayfield has good people that surround him. I think Baker Mayfield has a hell of a public relations firm that he must work with, or a publicist. Because after last year's excessive progressive commercials on television, we saw a bunch of Hulu commercials where they're even making fun of last year's shows, and progressives still decided to stick with him. They still stuck with him. Baker Mayfield, 21 for 39 for 189 yards, 1 TD, and 1 interception. I'm just saying, Baker, I hate to say it because I like his swagger. Unfortunately, his swagger doesn't match what he actually delivers on the field. This Cleveland Browns team is in real trouble heading into week 2 of your National Football League season. And that in no way should surprise anybody outside of Cleveland. All right. So I wanted to just dive in and cover those games for you all today. Just a couple other quick stats from around your National Football League. Matt Ryan there for 450 yards. So if you have Ridley on your fantasy football team like I do, you did well with that. Josh Allen played well enough for the Buffalo Bills to take down the New York football Jets that looked absolutely terrible. Another interesting thing that sort of popped up in the National Football League is that we only had one person so far. We still got 2 Monday night games, but heading into Monday night, we've only had really one person so far that's rushed for over 100 yards in a game, and that, of course, was the rookie from Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Very interesting. Another interesting thing that happened this past weekend was Phillip Rivers was playing for a new team again. Now, look, did I think that Phillip Rivers was going to have any problems showing up in Indianapolis and acting like the way Phillip Rivers acts? I actually figured Phillip would do exactly what he did in this game, which was one touchdown and 2 interceptions, and the Indianapolis Colts went into Jacksonville and got upset by the Jacksonville Jaguars, who probably, the management of the Jaguars organization, after seeing that win, probably wanted to fire their head coach for ruining the groundwork that they were laying for their whole Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Jaguar thing. Can Joe Burrow do so bad as a Cincinnati Bengal that when the Bengals get the first pick again, that they go with Trevor Lawrence? I'm just wondering. All right. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to The Disturbance. We've got a bunch of other shows coming up later in the week, so do check those out. We've got a super refresh mighty.rip website as well, so check that when you have a chance. For The Disturbance, I'm Dave DeBob, reminding you that for more semi-witty sports commentary, make sure you check out our website at mighty.rip.
The Disturbance is a production of the Mighty Rip